Good evening, my friends. Tonight, we open the first page of a story that will stretch across many nights. A story of Chichen Itza, where stone temples whisper secrets and life moves in rhythms long forgotten. Tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what hour of the night keeps you company. It's always magical to know that these words travel across oceans and time zones. So, soften the lights, let the world around you fade away, and allow yourself to wander into history's gentle embrace. The story of Chichen Itza does not begin with stone, nor with pyramids, nor even with the mighty people who built them. It begins with the land itself, with the endless green cloak of the Yucatan Peninsula. If you close your eyes for a moment, imagine the world as it was more than 1,000 years ago. Before highways, before tour buses, before archaeologists ever laid eyes on its ruins. Imagine the peninsula as it stretched out from the body of Mexico, a great flat expanse of limestone, covered in dense tropical forest. From above, it would appear as a vast sea of green, broken only by rivers of mist drifting across the treetops in the morning hours. The jungle has its own voice, and it is never silent. At dawn, it greets the world with a chorus. First, the cries of the parrots, their wings flashing with color as they cut across the dim blue sky. Then the calls of toucans, their beaks bright yellow and red, perched in the canopy. Beneath them, cicadas begin their endless buzzing chant, a hum that builds and builds, as though the forest itself were breathing. And somewhere in the distance, rising low and guttural, the howler monkey begins its morning call, a sound so ancient, so resonant, that it echoes like a temple drum. The air here is thick with humidity that clings to the skin, thick with the scent of wet earth, crushed leaves, and blooming orchids. You cannot escape the sense that the forest itself is alive, not just with animals and insects, but with something deeper, something older. For this jungle was once the womb of a civilization. As the first light of the sun pushes over the horizon, it catches the tips of stone rising above the trees. Not hills, not natural cliffs, but blocks carved by human hands, stacked with precision, lifting skyward in defiance of time. You might not see them immediately. The jungle guards its secrets well, but walk long enough through the tangled roots and hanging vines, and suddenly they appear. A wall of limestone, a staircase leading to nowhere, a column, half-toppled, covered in moss, and then a pyramid. It does not announce itself with noise or movement. It simply stands, patient, monumental, as it has stood for over 1,000 years. Rising nearly 30 meters into the air, its four sides facing the cardinal directions, its steps steep, its top crowned by a temple. This is El Castillo, the temple of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. To see it for the first time, emerging from a jungle mist, is to feel time itself bend. For a moment, you stand still. The cries of the parrots fade. The insects hush. Even the howler monkey seems to fall silent. There's only the pyramid in the sky. Its edges catch the dawn light, glowing in shades of gold and shadow. You feel small before it, not just in body, but in spirit. For this was not merely a building. It was a calendar, a clock, a sacred stairway between the world of men and the world of the gods. And yet, El Castillo is not alone. The city around it spreads across 6 square kilometers, plazas, temples, palaces, ball courts. At its height, tens of thousands of people lived here, their lives pulsing with rituals, trade, war, and celebration. The stones beneath your feet once echoed with their footsteps, their chants, their laughter. But let us not rush. Chichen Itza is not a place to hurry through. It is a place to linger, to feel, to imagine. So, before we wander its plazas, before we climb its stairs, let us pause here at the boundary where the jungle and the city meet. Listen closely. The forest hums with life. The stones hum with memory. And together, they whisper an invitation. Come closer. Step into the story. Step into Chichen Itza. The jungle is not kind of stone. Left unchecked, it swallows everything. Vines creep across walls. Roots split pathways. Moss blankets carvings that once told stories to the sky. And yet, what amazes those who walk among the ruins is not how much was lost, but how much still stands. Against the endless hunger of the forest, Chichen Itza endures, as though its builders placed more than stone into its walls. As though they poured in willpower, belief, and memory, strong enough to resist even the march of centuries. Imagine, for a moment, being one of those first explorers who stumbled into this forgotten city. The Spanish who marched inland during the 16th century, or perhaps the travelers centuries later who hacked their way through jungle with machetes. At first, there would have been only silence, save for the rasp of insects and the rustle of leaves. Then a shadow in the trees, a shape too straight to be natural, a block of stone half hidden beneath vines. Step closer, and more shapes emerge, staircases, walls, columns. The forest falls away, and suddenly, there is a city sleeping beneath the canopy. For the Maya who once lived here, this place was not silent. It pulsed with life. The plazas rang with voices. Merchants displayed goods from distant lands. Obsidian blades from the volcanic highlands, jade jewelry from Guatemala, feathers as green as emerald from tropical birds. Farmers carried baskets of maize and beans. Artisans carved glyphs into stone. Priests prepared offerings at temple steps. And above it all, the structures stood as permanent as the sky. But let us return to the morning light, to the very first hours of a day in Chichen Itza. Picture the sun just cresting the horizon, spilling its warmth across the limestone. The air is still cool from the night, though heavy with dew. The scent of copal incense rises from a nearby altar, its smoke curling into the air, carrying prayers to the heavens. Somewhere, a conch shell horn sounds, long and low, signaling the start of rituals. The people stir. Families emerge from their homes, simple thatched roof dwellings, their walls of wood and clay. Women begin the day's work, grinding maize on flat stones, the steady rhythm of stone against stone echoing like a heartbeat. Men walk toward the fields or prepare for construction on temples and plazas. Children laugh, chasing each other across packed earth courtyards. Life is beginning again, just as it has countless mornings before. Over it all, El Castillo watches. The pyramid is not merely an architectural wonder. It is a living calendar. Its 365 steps, 91 on each side, plus the top platform, mark the days of the solar year. Twice a year, during the equinox, the afternoon sun strikes its northern stairway in such a way that light and shadow create the image of a serpent, undulating down toward the earth. This was no accident. It was design. It was faith turned into stone. To witness, it was to see the god Kukulkan himself descend from the heavens. Think about what that must have meant for the people. In a world without clocks, without written calendars as we know them, the pyramid was more than a temple. It was time itself, sculpted into form. Every morning, its steps caught the first light of the sun. Every evening, they were bathed in twilight. It marked the seasons, the planting of crops, the cycles of ritual. For the Maya, time was sacred, and El Castillo was its keeper. Now, take a slow breath and picture yourself walking closer to its base. Feel the roughness of limestone beneath your fingertips. Notice how cool it remains, even as the sun warms the air. Look up, and the stairs stretch steeply above you, climbing to a small temple at the summit. The climb is daunting, even today, and for the ancient Maya, reaching the top was no casual feat. Only priests, rulers, and chosen individuals would ascend, carrying offerings, prayers, and sacrifices. Standing below, you would watch them climb, their figures growing smaller and smaller against the rising stone, until finally they disappeared into the doorway above. But this is only one corner of the city. Behind you lies the Great Ball Court, the largest of its kind in all Mesoamerica, stretching 168 meters long. Its walls rise high, and carved into them are scenes of warriors, captives, and rituals. Here, the game of Pak Ta Pak was played, Not just sport, but ceremony, its outcome sometimes tied to the gods and to life and death. The sound of a ball striking stone would echo across the court, a deep, resonant thud that mingled with the cries of spectators. Victors were honored. Sometimes they were sacrificed. For in this world, death was not defeat. Death could be a gift, an offering that secured a place among the divine. Beyond the ball court, plazas open wide. Colonnades line pathways. Temples rise one after another. The Temple of the Warriors, guarded by rows of carved stone soldiers. The group of 1,000 columns, their stony ranks stretching into the horizon. The sacred cenote, a vast sinkhole whose waters shimmered with both offerings and bones. Every direction you turn, the city expands. And yet, for all its grandeur, Chichen Itza is also a place of intimacy. Imagine stepping away from the Great Pyramid and the plazas, wandering into the residential areas. The noise fades. The air cools beneath the shade of trees. Here, life feels smaller, human. You see families gathered around fires, preparing meals. Children playing with small clay figurines. Elders sitting in circles, recounting stories of gods and heroes, their voices weaving together history and myth until the two become one. This is where the true heart of Chichen Itza beats, not only in stone, but in the daily rhythm of its people. For the city was not merely built, it was lived. Every stone was laid by hands calloused from labor. Every temple was raised by belief. Every plaza echoed with laughter, prayer, and fear. And so, as we stand here in the first light of day, surrounded by the whispers of jungle and stone, we begin to see Chichen Itza not as ruins, not as a relic, but as a living city. A place where the sacred and the everyday mingled, where the gods walked in shadow and sunlight, where time itself was carved into limestone. The jungle awakens, and with it, so too does Chichen Itza. If you listen carefully, beneath the calls of parrots and the hum of insects, you will hear something else, the sound of water. Not the rushing of rivers, for the Yucatan Peninsula has none. Beneath its limestone surface, the land hides an underground network of rivers and pools. They break through the surface in places, forming sinkholes, deep natural wells known as cenotes. It is no coincidence that Chichen Itza was built here, between two great cenotes. The very name of the city means at the mouth of the well of the Itza. These waters were more than life-giving. They were sacred. They were gateways. Walk with me now to the sacred cenote, about 60 meters across, its steep limestone walls dropping into emerald green water below. Stand at its edge and lean forward. The air is cooler here, the breeze carrying a faint mineral scent. The surface of the water shimmers, reflecting the jungle canopy above. But beneath its surface lies more than water. For centuries, this was a place of offerings. Archaeologists who dredged its depths uncovered gold, jade, obsidian, and pottery. They also found bones, the remains of men, women, and children. It is unsettling, even haunting, to imagine. But for the Maya, sacrifice was not cruelty. It was necessity. The gods demanded balance, and humans offered what was most precious to them. Some were thrown alive into the cenote, their cries swallowed by the cavern below. Others were offered objects of beauty, golden discs, carved idols, turquoise beads. In return, the people believed the gods would send rain, fertility, and protection. Pause for a moment and look again at the cenote. Imagine standing here 1,000 years ago, the crowd gathered around its rim, priests chanting, drums beating, the air thick with incense, the sun blazing down. A figure chosen for sacrifice led to the edge. The tension, the fear, the awe, and then silence as the body fell, breaking the still water below. The ripples would spread outward, slow and steady, until at last the cenote was still again, as if nothing had happened. And yet, the cenote remembers. It holds its offerings still at the bottom where light cannot reach. It is a well of memory, a doorway between the mortal and the divine. To stand here today is to feel the weight of centuries pressing against the air. From the sacred cenote, let's walk back toward the city's core. Our feet tread along ancient pathways where countless others once walked. The sound of the jungle swells and recedes until we reach the Great Ball Court. Even in ruins is staggering, the largest of its kind in all Mesoamerica. Imagine standing in its center. The walls tower above you, 8 meters high, stretching out 168 meters long. Carved into them are intricate reliefs, scenes of players, warriors, and gods. And there, high on the walls, you notice stone rings. They are not large, barely wide enough for a ball to pass through. To strike one with a heavy rubber ball, using only elbows, knees, and hips, must have been nearly impossible. Yet this was the goal. Close your eyes and imagine the sound. The echo of the ball striking stone, the rhythmic stomp of feet, the roar of the crowd pressing against the sidelines. The chant of priests, low and steady. This was no casual pastime. The ball game was sacred. It was a reenactment of cosmic myth, the eternal struggle between life and death, darkness and light. Some say the game represented the journey of the sun across the sky, or the descent of the hero twins into the underworld. And when the game ended, the outcome mattered far beyond sport. In some accounts, the victors, not the losers, were chosen for sacrifice, their blood feeding the gods, their spirits ascending to join them. Think of that for a moment. To win was to offer the ultimate gift, yourself. To lose was to remain, to keep living in the world of men. In this way, life and death twisted together, inseparable, each feeding the other. The ball court is silent now. The wind drifts through the empty space, carrying the distant cries of birds. But if you stand still long enough, perhaps you can almost hear the echoes. The thud of the ball, the chants of the crowd, the last cry of triumph before silence. From here, let us move on, deeper into the heart of Chichen Itza. Ahead rises the Temple of the Warriors, its great stairway guarded by rows of stone soldiers. At its summit sits a small platform where a figure once rested. The shakmul, a reclining stone idol holding a bowl on its stomach, meant to receive offerings of blood, food, or hearts. Imagine ascending those steps, the crowd watching below, the offering placed in the bowl, the belief that such a gift bound men to gods. Beside it lies the group of 1,000 columns. Once they held up great roof halls. Now they stand like a forest of stone, row upon row, stretching into the distance. Walk among them, and you feel disoriented, as though the stone itself is alive, surrounding you like trees. The air cools between the columns, the sound of your footsteps echoing strangely. These halls may have hosted markets, ceremonies, or gatherings of warriors. Whatever their purpose, they leave you feeling both dwarfed and awed, as if you have stepped into a place that belonged as much to spirits as to men. At every turn, the city reveals more. The Temple of the Jaguars, the platform of skulls, the steam baths, the market. Each structure a piece of a larger design. Each whispering fragments of stories we can no longer fully understand. Yet for all these wonders, it is the jungle itself that gives Chichen Itza its soul. The forest presses close, green, and unyielding, a reminder that no matter how great the city, nature always waits to reclaim it. The Mayan knew this balance well. Their myths told of cycles, creation and destruction, rise and fall. Even their calendar envisioned worlds born and ended again and again. Perhaps they always knew that Chichen Itza, too, would one day fall silent, swallowed by vines, left for future generations to rediscover. And so, as the sun climbs higher in the sky, casting shadows across pyramids and plazas, the city awakens before us. Not merely as ruins, not merely as history, but as a living memory, a heartbeat carried forward through stone, story, and silence. The jungle has opened its arms. The stones have spoken. Chichen Itza is alive once more. Now that we have walked among pyramids and temples, Let us imagine what this city felt like when it was alive, not in silence, but in the steady rhythm of daily life. The jungle sounds you hear today, the cicadas, the parrots, the rustling leaves, were there 1,000 years ago. But layered over them, in those days, was the sound of people. Chichen Itza was no quiet ruin. It was a thriving city, perhaps home to 30 or 40,000 souls. Step with me into one of its plazas on a bright morning. The air is already hot, the limestone streets reflecting the sun's light upward, warming your skin. People move in all directions. Merchants arrange stalls of woven cloth and painted pottery. Farmers arrive with baskets heavy with maize, beans, squash, and cacao. Hunters bring game from the forest: deer, turkey, armadillo. Fishermen carry fresh catches from the nearby cenotes and coastal trade routes. Children run between the legs of adults, their laughter cutting through the hum of bargaining voices. The smell is overwhelming but rich. Roasted maize on flat griddles. The bitter aroma of cacao ground into paste. The earthy sweetness of honey collected from stingless bees. The sharp tang of chiles drying in the sun. Incense of copal smoke rising in lazy trails, drifting upward toward the gods. As we walk among the people, we notice their clothing. Men wear simple tunics or loincloths with cloaks draped over their shoulders. Women dress in hupels, white cotton garments embroidered with colorful designs of flowers and birds. Some wear their hair long, braided, adorned with jade beads. Warriors, when they pass, are more striking still. Their faces are painted with bold patterns of red, black, and blue. Their headdresses are tall, heavy with feathers of quetzal and macaw. Look more closely, and you will see something else. Jade ornaments, beads of turquoise, discs of gold. These are not mere decorations, but signs of status. The Maya prized jade above gold, believing it carried life's essence. To wear jade was to wear vitality, fertility, the breath of the earth itself. Pause here, in the middle of the plaza. Close your eyes. Hear the voices around you. The calls of merchants offering obsidian blades, the songs of musicians plucking turtle shells and blowing into conch trumpets, the steady drumbeat of a ritual not far away. Life hums like a great chorus, every voice adding to the city's heartbeat. And above it all, looming in the near distance, the pyramid of Kukulkan. Its shadow falls across the plaza, reminding everyone that daily life is never far from the sacred. Here, religion is not a separate sphere. It is woven into everything, into food, trade, marriage, war. Every act is watched by the gods, measured, weighed. As the day continues, we wander away from the plaza into the living quarters. Not every structure is a temple or palace. Ordinary families live in homes of thatched roofs and mud-plastered walls, grouped together in compounds. Inside, the space is simple. Mats woven from palm leaves serve as beds. Clay pots line the corners. A grinding stone rests on the floor, where women kneel to crush maize into dough. Chickens and dogs wander freely in the yard outside. Here, we can sense the rhythm of ordinary life. A mother bends over the metate, her hands steady as she presses the maize again and again, the grinding sound as familiar as breath. Children chase one another in circles, their laughter breaking into shrieks. A father sharpens his obsidian knife, the flakes catching the light like sparks. This is not the grandeur of pyramids, but the foundation of life, family, food, survival. And when night falls, the city changes. The air cools, and the stars blaze above, brighter than you have ever seen. The jungle hum softens, replaced by the slow drone of frogs. Fires flicker in homes and temples, sending smoke into the dark. The plaza is quieter now, though not silent. A group of men gather to drink balch, a fermented honey drink. Priests prepare for midnight rituals, their chants drifting across the city like low waves. Children lie on mats, staring at the night sky, listening to the stories of their elders. Stories, they were the threads that tied one generation to the next. By firelight, elders told of the hero twins who played ball in the underworld. They told of Kukul Khan, the feathered serpent, who brought knowledge and maize to mankind. They told of cycles of creation, worlds born, destroyed, and born again. And as children listened, their eyelids heavy with sleep, those stories carried them into dreams where gods and men still walked together. Think of it. To grow up in Chichen Itza was to live with one foot in the ordinary world, of maze, of markets, of laughter, and another in the sacred, where every star, every shadow, every drop of rain held meaning. Life was both simple and vast, grounded and cosmic, and always in the background the jungle, its breath rising with mist at dawn, its voice alive with insects at dusk. The people of Chichen Itza lived with it, feared it, depended on it. It provided food, wood, medicine. It also held dangers, jaguars, snakes, fever. The jungle was both protector and threat, its edges always pressing close, a reminder that beyond the city's stone order lay wildness untamed. Now, let us stand again in the center of the city, where all of these lives and sounds converge. The plaza is wide, the pyramid towering, the ball court stretching out. Around us, the hum of people, the chant of priests, the music of shells and drums, the cry of a hawk overhead. This is Chichen Itza, not as ruin, but as heartbeat. Alive, thriving, eternal. As the days pass in this city, it becomes clear that life here was never only about survival. It was about rhythm. A rhythm not just of seasons, but of the cosmos. To live in Chichen Itza was to live by the calendar of the heavens. The Maya looked upward constantly. The sky was their great book, their sacred text, written not with ink, but with stars. Each constellation was a sign, each planet a messenger. The movement of Venus, bright and piercing, was watched with devotion, for it was the star of war, the herald of sacrifice. The sun's journey, its rise and fall, marked the cycle of planting and harvest. The moon, silver and shifting, ruled over tides, fertility, and prophecy. Imagine standing in the great plaza as night falls. The city quiets, but the sky grows loud with stars. Above you, the Milky Way stretches like a glowing river. The priests gather, their eyes fixed upward, their voices low with chants. They do not simply see points of light. They see stories, the hero twins who tricked the gods of the underworld, the crocodile floating in the celestial sea, the great bird, wings spread across the heavens. And most of all, they see patterns, cycles, the dance of planets and stars, repeating with precision. From these patterns, they create calendars of astonishing accuracy. One of 260 days, sacred and spiritual. Another of 365 days, tied to the solar year. Together, these calendars interlocked like gears, guiding rituals, feasts, and sacrifices. They could predict eclipses, align buildings with solstices, and mark the very breath of time itself. Now, picture this knowledge carved into stone. The Pyramid of Kukulkan was not merely a temple. It was a calendar in limestone. Each of its 4 staircases held 91 steps. Multiply that by 4, and you have 364. Add the top platform, and you arrive at 365, the days of the solar year. Each side of the pyramid aligned with a cardinal direction, each angle chosen with intent. But the pyramid held one secret more astonishing still. Twice a year, on the spring and autumn equinox, the setting sun cast a shadow down its northern staircase. Slowly, the shadow stretched, forming the image of a serpent slithering toward the earth. Its body flickered with the edges of the step terraces. Its head, carved in stone at the base, waited with open jaws. As day turned to dusk, the serpent seemed to descend from the heavens themselves, uniting sky and earth in a single, breathtaking vision. Now, imagine what it felt like to witness this spectacle 1,000 years ago, not as a tourist, but as a devotee. The plaza filled with people, thousands gathering in hushed awe. The priests stood at the temple summit, their silhouettes dark against the blazing sun. Incense smoke drifted in white clouds, carrying prayers upward. Drums pounded, steady and deep, echoing through stone and flesh alike. Then, as the sun lowered, the serpent appeared, a being of light and shadow, writhing down the pyramid's face. The crowd gasped. Children clutched their mothers. Warriors pressed their spears to the ground. The air thickened with reverence. For this was no trick of light. This was Kukulkan himself, the feathered serpent, descending from the heavens to walk among men. To witness, it was to feel the boundary between worlds dissolve. And when the last rays slipped below the horizon and the serpent vanished into night, the plaza erupted in chants. Some cried, some trembled, some raised their arms to the sky. Sacrifices were made, blood offered, hearts lifted still beating to honor the gods. For in this city, the cosmos was not distant. It was here, present, alive. And the people of Chichen Itza placed themselves at the very center of its rhythm. Pause with me here. Picture the stones glowing red in the final light of the sun. Picture the faces of thousands, illuminated by both fire and faith. Picture the serpent, not of flesh and scale, but of shadow, reminding all that life is fleeting, but cycles are eternal. This is what makes Chichen Itza more than stone. It is a place where architecture became time, where ritual became theater, where the heavens themselves descended to earth. And it is only the beginning of what this city holds. The city did not live only by days and seasons. It also pulsed with great festivals, moments when the entire population turned from ordinary life to sacred ceremony. To live in Chichen Itza was to live in anticipation of these gatherings, times when the gods were closest, when the veil between heaven and earth grew thin. Imagine, if you will, the festival of Kukulkan at the equinox. From the farthest corners of the city, from villages deep in the jungle, from traders who journeyed by canoe along the coast, all came to the heart of Chichen Itza. The plaza swelled with thousands. Families set up mats on the stone. Merchants sold cacao, obsidian blades, cotton cloth embroidered with bright designs. Music filled the air, the deep boom of drums, the hollow call of conch shells, the rattle of turtle shells struck by sticks. At the center of it all, the priests prepared. They wore long robes of white cotton, heavy necklaces of jade, and tall headdresses of quetzal feathers that shimmered green and iridescent. Their faces were painted in patterns of red and black, the colors of blood and night. In their hands they carried offerings, bowls of maize, vessels of honey, carved jade figures, and above all, living sacrifice. The festival built like a great wave. First the dances, slow and spiraling, lines of men and women weaving in circles, their feet pounding dust into the air. Then the music, faster now, drums echoing like thunder across the plaza. Incense thickened, curling in white streams, sweet and acrid. The chants rose, syllables in the old tongue, words that called down the gods themselves. And when the sun reached its appointed moment, all eyes turned to the pyramid. The shadow serpent appeared, moving slowly, step by step, as if alive. The crowd hushed. Some wept. Some pressed their foreheads to the ground. And when the serpent touched earth, the sacrifice began. High atop the pyramid, the priests held their victim aloft. He was painted blue, the color of sacrifice, the color of the sky. His chest rose and fell quickly, his eyes fixed not on the crowd but on the heavens. The drumbeat slowed. The chant deepened. Then, with obsidian blade sharper than steel, the priest opened his chest and lifted the still beating heart toward the sun. Blood streamed down the stone steps, dark against the limestone. The crowd roared, not in horror, but in awe. For in this gift of blood, life itself was renewed. Maize would grow, rains would fall, the cycle would continue. But not all offerings were made atop stone. Some were given to the waters. To the sacred cenote, the great sinkhole that still yawns near the heart of Chichen Itza. To the Maya, it was no mere pool. It was a gateway, a mouth into the underworld. Stand with me now at its edge. The cenote is vast, nearly 200 feet across, its limestone walls dropping sheer into green water below. Birds circle overhead, their cries echoing off the stone. The surface of the water glimmers with light, calm, almost serene. But beneath that surface, secrets lie. Into these waters, the people cast offerings. Jade beads, gold discs, obsidian knives. Ceramic vessels filled with food and drink. And sometimes human lives. Men, women, even children, chosen to carry prayers into the depths. The victims were thrown from the edge, their screams swallowed by the air, their bodies vanishing into the green. Some never resurfaced. Some drowned slowly, the weight of water dragging them into darkness. To us, it is haunting. To them, it was holy. For the cenote led to the gods of rain, the gods of fertility, the gods who decided whether crops would flourish or fail. Archaeologists who have dredged its bottom have found bones, hundreds of them, alongside treasures of jade and gold. Each object, each body, a message cast into the mouth of the earth. Even now, when you stand by the cenote's edge, the air feels heavy, as if charged with the weight of those offerings, with whispers of prayers still echoing through the centuries. Now, let's turn to the night. For when darkness fell, the city did not sleep. Torches flickered in plazas, their flames painting the stone with orange light. Shadows danced across carvings of jaguars, serpents, and eagles. Priests moved in solemn procession, their chants low and steady, the sound carrying like wind through the city. Picture the great ball court at night. Its walls rise 25 feet, its length vast enough to hold a modern stadium. Torches burn at either end. Warriors gather, painted for battle, their bodies gleaming with sweat and oil. The game begins, a contest of ritual, played with a heavy rubber ball. Players strike it with hips and thighs, never with hands, never with feet. The ball slams against stone, echoing like thunder. Spectators cheer, chant, pray. For this is no mere sport. This is a reenactment of the cosmic struggle, the battle of the hero twins in the underworld. To win is to honor the gods. To lose is to face death. Some say captains of the losing team were sacrificed, their blood joining the eternal cycle. Others believe the victors themselves offered their lives, the highest honor, the ultimate gift. And when the game ended, when blood was spilled, the chants swelled again. The drums beat deep into the night. The city glowed with firelight, alive with devotion, pulsing with the rhythm of gods and men entwined. Step back with me now, far above the city. Look down from the sky. See the pyramid, the temples, the cenote, all lit by torches and fire. Hear the hum of thousands of voices raised in prayer. See the jungle pressing close, dark and endless, the stars blazing overhead. This is Chichen Itza at its height. Not ruin, but living city, a place where cosmos and earth met in stone, blood, and fire. And as dawn approaches, the fires fade. Smoke drifts upward, thinning into the morning sky. The people return to their homes, weary but devoted. The city breathes, waiting for the next cycle, the next ritual, the next rising sun. For this was the way of Chichen Itza. Life woven in a ceremony, time measured in stone, existence carried in rhythm with the stars. A city alive, awake, eternal.